Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2.
Today we're gonna talk about my favorite film.
Favorite film. It's a
Favorite?
favorite
It
film.
Yeah,
became
bro, it's
favorite.
it's
Bro,
bro, it's
Kush
my all-time favorite.
exaggerates
That's
like anything.
so we're gonna talk about Eyes Wide Shut. We're gonna share our opinions. We're gonna discuss. So please feel free to really put down in the comments anything that you feel about the film. Let's begin at the opening. Okay, like the first scene. She's asking Tom, "How am I looking?" Okay, and this guy, the husband, he doesn't even look at her, and he's time and again repeating that, "Yeah, you look great, you look great, you look great." And then she finally says it that, "You're not even looking at me," And then he looks at her, and then he says the same thing. "Yeah, you look great." I think that kind of really sets the tone for the entire film. What do you think? What do you think of that opening? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember. I think it was. I agree with you. I don't have anything to add to that.
So I remember exactly that scene you were telling me, and I thought maybe this is actually about a marriage where the two of them don't really care about each other, and maybe he doesn't care about her as much, and but then just completely the film just took a turn where I was like, what the f is happening? Um, but that opening, I mean, it's as impressive as the rest of the film, but it didn't stick out to me for some reason. What about you?
The film, like of course, it's about a lot of things that we'll discuss, but essentially, the opening kind of defines the entire film, and what's going to happen is because I'll tell you why. For me, at least, is that they are in a fake marriage, a fake marriage, and as in a very superficial relationship. And that opening, those dialogues, those 4 to 5 lines, that how am I looking good? How am I looking good? How am I looking good? You're not even looking at me. Yeah, you're looking good. I think that was as superficial as it gets without us realizing that it's getting superficial, so it's not that they're telling us, hey, this is a superficial marriage, but they're telling us that how, even though these characters are thinking they are in a very happy good marriage, it's not actually that, it's not a very accomplished relationship. It's a very superficial relationship, and I think that what really sets the tone of the entire film. And not just the relationship, but also how Tom Cruise's character really changes throughout the film, because he really turns out to be a very narrow-minded and a very superficially conditioned man. I think that's why it's special for me. It really brings out this character of him, who and also the fragility of this relationship. That it's not that strong.
I didn't think that the relationship was fragile necessarily. I, in fact, felt like they had a good understanding and they got along. Um, but I kind of agree also, now that I'm looking back at it, that first time he did sort of not exactly ignore her, but it's almost like he wasn't effusive about it. But then I feel like they've been married for a few years now, and naturally that sense of chemistry maybe has waned away over the years, which is why I thought that he's acting this way. I didn't necessarily think that they're cold towards each other, or their relationship was coming to an end. That's not my feeling of
Yeah,
that,
that's not
of that
even what I
relationship.
felt. Agreed,
Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally. Yeah, but I just felt, yeah, it was just so sublimely done that it speaks to your subconscious, because it is so detailed. It is so detailed that you might not get it at the start when you watch the film, but as the film flows, you get, yeah, this had to happen. It doesn't feel out of the place, you know. I think that really plays a big part in adding to the detail of the film.
I think it was the opposite, because I feel like here is a couple who is actually happy. We don't see them fighting necessarily. Here's a couple who is happy. Here's a couple who's rich. Here's a couple who is extremely gorgeous, and yet we find Nicole Kidman's character cheating on him. It's almost like despite everything, despite all, because they seem so perfect, right? They're the perfect couple. It couldn't get any better. They have the perfect child. They have this swanky house. They're both damn good looking, damn rich. He's a doctor. She's very loving. They seem to have all of it on the surface, and yet there is something that she was looking for that she didn't find, and she had to cheat on him, or resort to sort of getting out of the marriage and into a sexual relationship with another man, that somehow there was something wanting in a relationship which she could only find outside of it. I mean, yeah, Bharat, what do you think?
No, but like, I'm sorry, Barut, if I can just like hold on to one thing that Gaurav said and really make that a center of our conversation for a while, is that he said that she cheated on him. Do you all think Nicole cheated on Tom, or Tom cheated on Nicole, or who cheated on who? Did they actually cheat? What's your thought on that? I think this is very fascinating.
No, I don't think they actually ended up cheating on each other, right? If I'm not. Yeah, I don't think they actually.
I think it depends on our perspectives. I think like you can I'll tell you why also, but I really want to know what you think.
No, I mean, Nicole Kidman definitely cheated on him. No, I mean, she
I'm loving this conversation. Yeah, go on, bro. Yeah, this is your stage.
She slept
I
with
thought she definitely didn't cheat. She just thought about it.
What? She clearly says that she cheated on him.
So Gaurav, okay, this is beautiful. Okay, Barut, don't look at him like that. Yeah, come on, don't judge
I'm not
him.
looking. I'm thinking, am I confused? I'm not looking at him like that.
No,
No, even I'm confused. I
So-
know, but she.
So guys,
actually-
okay. Let's go back to that scene where they both are high, they both are smoking up, and they get into a fight. Okay, we remember that scene where she tells him that I really wanted to be with this man, this naval officer. When she tells him that, I know he's taken aback. So all that she tells him is that it was in her head. She thought about it. She never actually did it. And she also in her dialogue she said that next day he was gone and I was relieved. She uses these words. So the point is that she never actually physically did it. And all those whenever Tom Cruise is in a taxi, Stanley Kubrick cuts to this bluish kind of a thing where his wife and that naval officer are making out, but it is in Tom Cruise's imagination. So it's actually, she's never physically done it, but Gaurav, your point is very valid also, because it really brings us to this very important question of, so Tom is taken aback by that, he in his head, she's already cheated because she's thought about it, like she's said it also, she's not feeling guilty of it. Why? Like she's like, if you can think of it, then of course, you can do it. That's what, Tom's character is all about. And he actually goes out physically to to get even, to try to figure out how he can really also figure out this guy, this person who can really cheat on his wife.
I think she did say that she cheated on him, no, very clearly, or am I getting it wrong?
God, I'm sorry, but you're getting it wrong. She didn't.
She didn't explicitly say she cheated on him. She was thinking about it. Is that what it is?
She was very close to, but she didn't. Like, she really wanted to.
She wanted to,
but
yeah.
then she didn't for whatever reason.
Like she told him that I want to, So what do you all think about that inciting incident? How do you all think that is done? Because why I'm asking this is because we've seen so many films, and this big incident is usually a shootout, or it is usually a huge thing which is happening, And here it is just about these two people who are talking, and that conversation is just so powerful, and it's inside one room. It's just two people talking, and that conversation changes the entire film. It really propels the film in this direction of fuck, now what?
Which scene? Sorry, which scene?
The one where Nicole Kidman talks about the infidelity, and that scene, right?
Yeah. So honestly, with that scene, it's so powerful because the emotional quotient of the film constantly keeps flipping. When they come in, there's almost a sexual connotation to it. And but in the middle of it, it's also slightly comedy. Because Nicole Kidman's like, oh, the whoever your patients are, they come at you, and don't you think they want to see a little dicky or something like that? She does, and I couldn't help laughing at that point. And later it gets serious also, where we realize that this is a couple who's actually fighting and they have something to sort out between them. So it's a lot of it. I just feel like it doesn't stand still, which is why it just never gets boring, because it's constantly evolving. The conversation's constantly evolving in that sense.
The first time, if you all remember, when you all watched this film, at the end of the film, what did you really feel? Like what was the reaction? What was it? Did something stay back?
Yeah, a lot of it stayed back. So, okay, I'll tell you what I thought of the film broadly, okay? I just felt like and this is we'll get to the whole cultish nature of the film. I think at some point you'll only take us there, but but apart from that, and like we'll try to make sense of that. But apart from that, of course, this is just a film that the way I saw it was, all of us have these sort of fantasies, or we can't help but feeling what we feel sexually. And here is a couple, and this can happen even in the best of relationships, where um, we can't help but we have this sort of very strong sexual urge, and we can't help thinking things for other people outside of our relationship as well, and it's completely normal. uh, it's completely normal, and because at the end, also coming to the end, they make up, right? It's just, they just like Tom Cruise at the end, or Nicole Kidman at the end, just says, you know what, we have one thing to do, let's just go home and fuck, and we close the film, which is a fun way of closing the film. But it's also about, you know what, we all have these thoughts, we can't control, there's this animal nature inside of us, and that we just want to fuck people all the time, and it's fine, we just need to make peace with that. At the end of it, it doesn't reflect on us personally. It's just how we're wired to be. So I think it's about accepting that and moving forward, even in a relationship. So in that sense, if I have to talk only about the ending now, I can argue that that was a bit easy to, like, the way it ended was a little too convenient. That they had this huge fight and so much to sort out, and at the end it all ended so simply with her just saying, you know what, I forgive you, and let's just go home and have sex, and we close the film. um, I would have wanted it to be a little more ugly, or a little more about, but you know what, it's fine. At the end, I felt like it was slightly convenient, honestly.
For me, it was like I still have a lot of blank spaces with this film. Like I didn't get a lot of the stuff. Like, I mean, in the beginning, yeah, what you said made sense. That they are probably losing some heat in the marriage and all that. But then they go to that party, and dude, like, Nicole Kidman was dancing so closely with that dude, whoever the fuck that player was, and Tom Cruise is about to have a threesome with these people. Then he goes and he helps his friend with a again naked chick that's passed out. And then then this question of fidelity makes him go on this night run where he first gets told "I love you" by some patient ka daughter. Then he gets picked up by a prostitute. Before that, some teenagers are kind of bullying him on the road. Like, a lot of those things, I felt I it didn't make much sense to me also. Like, if I like look at it as a complete layman, which I am, it somewhere things didn't sum up, and then the end they just, yeah, about Gaurav said very conveniently, just made up and said, let's just fuck. What happened to that other girl, who
Which
stood up
girl?
stood up for him in the cult thing, who took the,
She died.
actually she died, but like there was, why was that cult thing shown, like,
Yeah, we'll get to that.
yeah, like, a lot of these questions were unanswered. What happened to that guy who first on Nicole Kidman? Are they just trying to show that she was so prepared and so close to cheating? And what about Tom Cruise with those two chicks? What happened to that older guy? Like, I don't know, man. A lot of things didn't make sense to me, which I'm still lost about. I want to understand from you guys that what the fuck was this film trying to say? I have no idea. Yeah, fidelity is the center of it, understood. Okay. But what? Like, there were so many elements that made no sense to me.
Our brother, our mother, our father, or our friends, we look at them as, oh, he's my brother first, okay, then probably he's my son or something like that. But what we need to really understand is, before these people are our relatives, friends, mothers, fathers, whatever, they are human beings. And those human beings, even before all those commitments that they have in the society with us, with other people, they essentially, in their core, they are very primal beings, as Gaurav said. This animal nature that he was referring to, I would like to put it in a way that is a human nature. It is, we need food, we have sexual urges, we want to drink water, we like hygiene. Like, those are very simple, basic things that I think surpass our commitments in the society and our relationships with others. So this Nicole Kidman ka whole thing with Tom Cruise, I think she is being a woman before she's being a wife. and she coming out to him and saying that I wanted to do that, I think that is a very raw human thing that he's tried to bring out over there. And with that, Tom Cruise's character is in conflict because he's not being able to accept that rawness in his own self. Because if we remember, in the first scene, as you said, Nicole Kidman was too close to that guy. But Tom Cruise was still like, no, I need to go. But he was still going on, but he was not being that as open as Nicole was, But the fact is that from within, like, I'm sure he had, like it's shown later that he goes on and he kisses, various people. He goes to the prostitute as well. So this sex and this erotica, this has been taken as a metaphor, and it could have been food also. He's chosen to take this whole aspect as a metaphor to really tell us that don't be fake. I think this is what it is. I don't even think it's about fidelity. Of course, one of the themes and the overarching narrative structure is based around the argument of what does it mean to cheat? Like in your head, is that cheating, or you have to physically do it, or what it's all about? But for me, it really became about being true to yourself, not being fake, being able to accept who you truly are and your desires. I think it became about that.
Yeah, I got that, but then there was still like, so I mean so then the cult part, I don't know how that came into play. Okay, in this narrative that you're giving to me, then the part of the prostitute who got him, who he really liked, that she got HIV, like that. Where was that leading to? And the fact that when Tom Cruise came to the prostitute's house again, met the roommate and started trying to fuck the roommate as well. Like, what was like, so many things just didn't make sense to me with the character. Like, Tom Cruise character shouldn't have done that. Like, in my head, like, that wasn't
exactly the point.
No,
That
it
at
all
the
makes
starting.
sense.
Huh?
No, it all makes sense. You're confused. The prostitute who got HIV was also there at the cult thing. The woman who he had saved, from the drugs, she was the one who comes to his rescue over there and bails him out. She's like, I volunteer, because he saved her life right at the start. She in turn saves his life right over there. So those two women are connected. They're connected over there because they are the ones that warn him and save him.
Yeah, that's very subtextual level, but
That is
yeah.
No,
very
it's clear. No. It was very
Yeah,
clear.
it's clear. Yes. But I didn't get it at the first viewing myself.
Oh, no.
Like, even I didn't
Yeah.
get it.
No. Even because I think Kushan and me have watched it 2-3 times now. So I mean, it wasn't my first viewing also right now. So yeah, maybe that's why. Yeah.
But go on, like Gaurav, what do you think about what Barot is saying? I think he has a beautiful point there. Like,
Barot's beautiful point was I didn't get the film
Yeah.
or the cult
Yeah,
part.
I swear. What is so beautiful about it?
bro, I think
Talks like a
okay, so let me
giant,
just
bro. It talks
let me-
normally now.
bro, but I think that's actually a very beautiful point that you didn't get the film.
I did not get the film.
And I'm
bro.
sure you watched it just once.
I watched it only once. Of course, I watched it only once.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, I mean, see, like, it was a gripping film because you're because I mean, it's very good, it's genuinely good storytelling, because you don't know where it's heading, and you have all these different elements, and of course the music is the thing that fucking kills it at the end of it. But like, just so many, like, I don't know what you're telling me also is not making sense, bro. There were just so many things which were just so unrelated to me.
Yeah. I agree with you. What I don't understand, or what confuses me about the film, was the cult part of it, which I don't get.
Yeah. And even,
and the other part.
Yeah, say.
Yeah, but otherwise it all, like, if you watch it a second time or a third time, all the dots tend to join and you sort of figure out what the film is about. So I didn't have a problem with that. For me, it's just about this cult and why he chose to look. Inherently, it's about this man who realizes his wife wants to cheat on him, and now what is he really going to do about it? So this film could have been written in a way where he didn't have to go through this cult he didn't have to bring this in through plot. So I'm not sure why. I'm pretty sure if we Google this, which we haven't, even in this format, by the way, even for the viewers, we've chosen not to do our own, like, go to different sources and analyze. All of these are opinions that come from us, and it's not something that's borrowed from a different website. So even in terms of giving you an explanation, borrowed, it's just what Kush and me can give you. I'm sure he had some deeper meaning and, like, completely intellectual about the Illuminati or whatever, yada yada, and you can go into
fuck
it.
that. Okay, fuck that. But okay, I'll just try to tell me if this makes sense. Okay, now this guy Tom Cruise, as he comes out at the starting of the film, he's not somebody who would cheat. Okay, he's not somebody who would do anything like that. He doesn't even take. He's really clearly said that, you know, it's because I love you and you're my wife. I would never cheat on you. You know,
Yeah,
all of
he's
those
not
things.
even jealous.
Now-
I mean, he sees his wife dancing with that guy and he's fine. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, he's that person. Now, if you put that person into a situation where there's an orgy going on, you know, fuck the Illuminati, fuck the secret society thing, there's an orgy going on. And there are these different scenes that are happening to him. There's a prostitute, you know, and then there are these, what more happens to him, you know, that he's pushed to his limits and he's tested that would you still not give in to your desires? You know, I think those are the questions that are asked to that character. Would you still not give in to your desire? Would you still be fake? Would you still say that you don't want to do it? All of that. I think it is that. It is Stanley Kubrick really pushing this one person who thinks he is very Sida Sada, nice, he would never do it. Would you really? Are you really that? You know, I think that is what the director is doing.
We get that.
According to
We get that. And we get that because the cult inherently is a sexual cult. And you could even maybe argue that the cult, in fact, is a metaphor for whatever is happening inside of his head because he constantly has these bad
Beautiful, yeah.
thoughts. And all of
Agreed,
this,
huh.
like the cult is basically a manifestation of like these uncontrollable urges that we have in our head manifested in the real world in this completely raunchy setting. It could definitely, you could argue, we could debate about that. But what I'm also getting at is in the second half of the film, where it's not about him dealing with struggling with this the fact that his wife would possibly sleep with another man. It's about him escaping the clutches of this mafia. You know, it almost becomes him
Yeah.
escaping that.
Yeah, exactly.
And even okay, and you know
It
what?
becomes about guilt also.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to
Yeah.
like really redeem.
Yeah, and if we wanted to even stretch it further, we could be like, you know what? None of us can escape these thoughts that we have or the fantasies that we have. And it's just the mafia is again a metaphor for all of those dirty, dirty thoughts that we all have as humans that are reaching out for him, you know, trying to suck him in. We could, but I honestly, I don't know. I mean, even I feel like I might be reading too much into it.
Yes. So guys, what do you all think of the narrative structure? Like, how did you all like? What do you think? As Baruti also said, that it was good storytelling, gripping. You didn't get bored. So, would you like to talk a little more about that?
What
like,
was
I-
with the little hint of condescension I heard in that little way you said that I like the storytelling? Fucking.
But the first time, why I'm asking this is because the first time I watched, I couldn't understand what the hell was this. I was like, bro, what happened? Nothing really happened, but so much happened. You know, I was like that. So, what do you all think?
No, I mean, in the structure of it, I didn't really think there was anything that. I mean, inherently, yeah, it is. We had an inciting incident, and this guy now is pushed into the situation where he decides he's going to go to this cult, this sex cult, and yeah. So I mean, in the structure of it, I didn't really feel like we discussed in The Place Beyond the Pines, where it's inherently they're breaking the structure. Here, I felt like the structure was more adhered to. But what I also feel like in the writing of how Kubrick writes is he writes in these sequences, you know. It's almost like I can break the film down into these sequences. Like the first sequence was the party, you know. Like and so much of the film happens right there. It's almost like there are these long scenes which happen over there. There's another sequence which happened. There's another sequence after that where he's just on the road, and then second sequence is of course where he's at the cult. So I feel like he writes these long scenes, these long sequences that happen in this one location, and he keeps on it. You know, he just stays there. You know, almost like how Tarantino would have these chapters where things are happening in one setting, and then we move to the next. You know, it's almost like that. So which is what I felt was interesting, in that so much happens in one setting, and then we move to the next, and it's almost like a different chapter opens up.
Yeah.
You tell us, what did you
Let's
think?
listen to Bar first. Bar, what do you think?
No, dude, I don't. I mean, I felt the same thing as you said. Exactly what you said. That when it ended, I'm like, what happened? And still, so much happened. And I felt that. Like, I mean, in terms of structure, it was it was quite straightforward in the sense of you can understand that okay they are losing their heat, and then he find and but he still never thought of cheating, and then he found out his wife did, so it spiraled him down. So first instance came when he met that patient ka daughter who told him I love you, that he had a chance to cheat there. Then but he didn't. Then he went to the prostitute again, didn't. Yeah, whatever that cult was. And I mean again either he did not or did not get to or whatever. And then finally whatever it takes its turn. So structure nothing felt off to me over there.
Cool. So I think for me it was basically about this guy after the inciting incident. Till the inciting incident, it is all set up. After that, for me, it really became about his will he really cheat or will he not? It became about that. So again and again, he's coming very close to he's making all the decisions, as Gaurav said in those sequences. He'll make decisions where you think, okay, now he's going to cheat, he's going to get it, but again and again he doesn't. He even kisses that patient's daughter, who tells him, I love you, but then he really moves out. And then he has this little phone call when he's with this hooker, he's in her apartment. He has this phone call with Nicole, with his wife, and then he just gives her the money and he really does it, and even at that at the whole cult thing, if you remember, right before he is kicked out and he's exposed, there is this woman who comes to him, and he's in this room where everybody's like doing their thing, and this woman comes to him and she's like, do you want to go somewhere more private? And he tells her, yeah, sure, why not? So he's about to, every time he's about to go the full length, and he just doesn't. So I think the whole structure of the film, for me at least the first half, it became that that he's 2 to 3 sequences and scenes which are about him making the decision that I will cheat, and then he's not able to, something holds him back. And once in that effort to be able to cheat, so he's really pushing himself to cheat, okay, he's really like, I want to cheat, okay, and he just can't do it, and in that he kind of ends up fucking a lot of things for himself, which in the second half I think he's trying to redeem, because there's a girl who's died because of him. There is so much shit that he's seen now that he can't unsee. And in the end, that little conversation that he has with the guy who threw the party in the first scene, goes there, he's playing the pool and everything, and that guy tells him that I was there at that secret society thing as well, I saw you. And then the whole question becomes about this girl who died, the girl who gave her life for this guy. So that is discussed over there, and I think that really binds. I think that's where the film really ends. It really binds the film in a way that, like, sometimes we try to act out of impulse and instinct, and we might do it, we might not even do it. Like, for example, murder, we might do it, we might not even do it, but in the quest of that, we kind of end up disrupting so many things that kind of that fuck things up, and and then somebody really died because of this one couple. This guy who thinks that his wife has thought of cheating on him, something that far-fetched, which is so powerful in his own mind, and him going, and because of him somebody dying. I think that was a very amazing arc that the film followed, but it followed in a way that was very subliminal and very subtextual, which was, nothing was said, it was all shown. So I think that is, I'm still trying to figure out the whole, I don't know the whole narrative structure, but these are the little things that really stood out for me.
Yeah. I mean, other than the sexual tones, what I see, this film obviously raises a lot of questions for us, because more than answers, we just have questions like, this film was very sexual, yes, but why did he have these eerie undertones? Why this almost like this feeling of constant threat of him being harmed, or him going through something, or this cult basically that's going to take over his life, or everyone wearing these scary masks, or people looking like, remember that the tailor's daughter, this young girl, and she's cheating on with these two Asian men. Later there's a scene where the tailor's like, yeah, I'm okay with her sleeping with them, and her face is almost like it has a mask on, when she's a normal looking person, but something in her face is almost like she has a mask on her face, like the people at the cult did. So obviously there are a lot of questions, and I don't completely understand why he would have these undertones of danger, or a cult, or just sort of these bad vibes that the film gives.
Also, I think, don't you think that sex as a whole is looked at in a very negative way? Like generally, I'm sorry, I'm generalizing, but as much as I've experienced, it's kind of a taboo-ish kind of a thing. Like, do you all agree? Do you all disagree?
I
What do you all
mean,
think?
no,
really,
I didn't feel like it was as a taboo because there was just so much of it,
No, not in the film,
Then,
but like in our real world, like you can't just like that film. I think it really feels so edgy, as you said, because I think they're dealing with something that we don't see and experience so openly throughout the world. At least I think in my experience, it's not that out there that a father being okay with her daughter, just like just having fun in his own shop, in his own costume shop. I think that was very powerful, when it came out that way, because what it really communicated is that it's fine as long as it's benefiting you or me. It really came down to that primal instinct.
it had an uneasy vibe, It
Yeah, but-
disturbed me.
But
So much of the
I
film
think-
disturbed me.
Oh shit.
But don't you think the film, like the music, is what kept me still? Even I'm not getting what the fuck is happening. I'm not understanding. But the music, dude. Even when Tom Cruise is inside the cult and he's asked to remove his mask, I know it's Tom Cruise going to remove his mask. I know who's the person. The music makes it seem like fucking Shah Rukh Khan's going to come out of the mask, dude. It's so well. Oh my, the piano. Oh fuck. The music was too good.
Oh shit, the piano. Bro, I so agree with you. Gaur, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Very powerful, very powerful. I agree.
Bro, so like I just feel why I really want to talk about the music is because I just think that the music of this film made the edit of this film
Yeah.
so much more coherent, because I just felt so many random things were happening and every time that piano ting would come behind and you just know, okay, this is fucked up. That same feeling just comes inside of you. And I think that what so many people talk about, using recurring motifs in your film, what is the job of music, how to use music in a film. I think this film and the use of music in this film especially, I think it's god level. Like if we want to learn from it, I think this is one thing that I'd really want to watch again and again and see how they've used the same music in different sequences to really make us feel those similar feelings of being weirded out.
At the start,
yeah,
you were
I
like,
think that.
his films didn't really earn a lot of money, but obviously because they were so divisive, like imagine having to go to the producer with a script like this, and you're like, you know what? Then he gets into a sex cult, and there's like 20 naked women, and the producer's like, what sort of a man are you? Or what is this film that
And
you're getting
dude,
into, and why should I
yeah.
pay you millions of dollars to make this?
And like, what the
But-
fuck, when he enters the cult also, why the fuck is there like a good 5 minutes are spent in that weirdo in the middle with the girl surrounding, and that led nowhere, dude. That I don't know why so much time was given to that.
Bro, let's talk about that one scene and we'll end this. Let's really get into that one
About
scene. What
which-
do you
which-
think,
which
Gaurav?
one?
The cult scene.
I mean, it was, like I was saying, it was disturbing, but I don't know what more to say about it, honestly. Like, y'all tell me. Like, I'm genuinely, like, even I have these questions. No, I was also saying, talking about the music, did y'all notice about the Indian music when the cult scene happened? Like, he used these tablas and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
when it comes on.
Yeah, there was sitar,
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
tabla, there was piche some raga going on.
Some rag or some like Indian music he tried to use.
Yeah. There is a constant threat to his life. It is like he's in a war zone. You know it. It's like he's in the secret room. So that, I think that really keeps us from getting bored. Nothing is actually happening, as you all really said. But I think the fear of losing his life really keeps us on our toes. And the way he's really visualized it, that circle, then, those people with masks, they're kissing, and the way they choose each other, and then he takes that whole round around inside, you know, seeing that what's gonna happen. And then that one cut where the ceremony is happening downstairs, we see Tom Cruise, his eyes basically, then we see somebody looking at him from the top with another mask. You know, he looks at him, he nods back, and he looks back. Those simple cuts and simple gestures are so powerful, I think, because the whole sequence inherently has this danger of our protagonist's life. You know, Tom Cruise could die at any moment. You know, so I think even those little things, they become very scary and very eerie because of this inherent fear that is instilled at the start only. You know, and yeah, I really loved how it ended. You know.
I want to talk about the pacing of the film, you know, in terms of he holds on to shots for so long, you know, when like a normal editor would be like, okay, this is the cut, now you cut to another shot, he's holding on it, and he holds on and he holds on, and through the film you can see these, you know, it's a slow pace. He just really wants you to be there with him, and after a point I began to get restless, you know. I was like, no, cut here, you cut, you know, I want to see what next. You know, you don't keep here. You know, don't keep me here. And but I don't know why. I don't know why the pacing. Did you all feel like this about the pacing of it? Because I got restless. I was like, I want to know. Like at the end of the film, I was absorbed and engaged. But I was just like, also, this film could have been cut to be a much faster edit. You know, it could have been a snappier sort of a film. He didn't have to hold on to like shots for so long. The edit didn't have to be this laggy. It's almost like like he wants you to be bored, you know, like it's almost like a transcendental sort of a feel to it, like almost how a Tarkovsky would sort of hold on to these shots of mundane objects, and we're like, why are you making me look at this? And like seconds are passing by and you're looking at this extremely mundane thing. Why? So I don't know, maybe it's about us sort of really sinking it in. Maybe he's actually trying some sort of transcendental type of filmmaking, but I just felt like it lagged. I felt like the edit could have been a much faster edit than it was. But what do I know?
But Baru, do you want to say something about that? Did you feel bored?
No, dude. I got restless, but that's because of my attention span, not because of the film ka pacing.
Yeah, maybe
I didn't feel.
What are our attention spans bad? Because
Eyes Wide Shut makes us question our attention spans. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I'm trying. I think we might have bad attention spans.
Bro, I on the contrary loved the way it was paced, because I was constantly waiting to see what will this guy do. Will this guy actually cheat? I think if it was any faster, I would have gone to the result quicker. And I think I didn't want to go to the result, and I think it was so much more fun and it was so much more juicy to be in those long takes and to be figuring out that what will happen next. You know, as also I think that is it somehow felt like a mystery when it was not. It felt mystifying when it was not, and I think that's why I loved the pacing. But I agree with you that, you know, it was slow, but I think this is one of those rare films where I personally did not get bored even though it was slow. Yeah,
I wouldn't say I was bored, but I was definitely restless. I wanted it to go ahead. I wanted it to move quicker.
Yeah.
But also another thing what struck me is how atmospheric the whole film was, you know, because obviously it's a film that takes place for the most part at night. Obviously there is this, everywhere you go there's a festive sort of a feel, you know. It's almost like a cold December Christmassy feel. It's very festive and yet it feels all eerie. It almost feels like there's a monster that's lurking in the corner that's going to come out at you. And that was also in the lighting of it, you know, because on the one hand you see these red and blue lights and these greens, and his use of color is so stark. You know, like if he's just use of different sort of colors, and I'm sure there's some color theory that he's using, you know, because these the blue and the reds in the light was so I wouldn't say jarring, but I'm sure he's used them in a very conscious way, because whenever that blue light was used, I always felt like I don't know, it definitely, the reds and the blues, there's some sort of a deeper meaning behind all of that. maybe it could be like red signifying danger or blue signifying something else.
I have no clue, bro. I have absolutely no clue.
No, but
I sure felt it.
I feel like the colors that Kubrick uses is definitely something to be studied. Why he would use certain colors. I mean, obviously it's a Christmassy
Probably,
feel, so
yes.
the reds and greens were warranted. But I feel like the blues, especially in the light, they were not natural. You know, there was something, even in the lighting, there was something disturbing about it.
I think I felt it, but I couldn't really point it out. All I can point it out is when he goes to meet Nick at this little bar, and it's this Christmassy feel, and he enters, and there's all these Christmassy nice things, and there is when he gets the passport Fidelio. Like the most eeriest thing happens in the world, at almost like like an atmosphere of a Christmas Eve. So yeah, so I really loved that irony where if anybody asks me, hey, can you really recommend me a nice Christmas movie? I'm in the mood of watching a Christmas movie. I'll be like, yeah, Eyes Wide Shut, go for it.
Yeah.
I think yeah. That's
I mean, even Fidelio is somehow pointing to his fidelity in some way. So I don't know,
Yeah.
like all of these deeper meanings.
Wait, that is not deep, huh? That is very normal. Obviously, it is doing that. Anything don't go into it. Obviously,
not-
Fidelio is fidelity.
Obviously, right? But I'm saying. But did you notice it before I said it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
we did, Gaurav.
even
That
a
was
dumb
pretty
fuck
on the
donkey
top.
I'm
will
saying-
notice that.
I'm saying this movie needs to be read into, I think, a little more, or maybe not. Maybe you just end up just fucking with your own mind if you try to find deeper meaning behind it. But then it's Kubrick. You probably wanna read into it a little more.
We can just go on and on and on and on about this film and Kubrick, but let's just call it here.
Right? Sure.
Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye. See you all.